Let's take a look at the topic problems of agricultural mechanization. Now, the agricultural sector, despite many decades of neglect, remains the highest employer of labor in Nigeria. The sector employs about 80% of the labor force in the country. Now, despite this huge number of persons engaged in agriculture, the sector has been unable to meet the food demands of Nigerians. Now, majority of the farmers in Nigeria still make use of crude farming tools. Now, in fact, the mechanization rate in Nigeria is just about 0.027 that's HP or horsepower per hectare, which is among the lowest globally. This is far below the Food and Agricultural Organization's recommended rate of 1.5 horsepower per hectare. Now, Thailand, which is the major supplier of rice to Nigeria, has a rate of 0.7 horsepower per hectare. Now, in this lesson, we will discuss the problems of agricultural mechanization in Nigeria. So let's take a look at the specific objective. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to state the meaning of agricultural mechanization. You should be able to outline the problems of agricultural mechanization. You should be able to identify mechanized agricultural operations and also highlight the advantages and disadvantages of agricultural mechanization. You should also be able to explain the limitations of farm mechanization. You should also be able to state the reasons why agriculture has not been fully mechanized in West Africa. And finally, you should be able to suggest possible ways of improving agriculture through mechanization. Now, let's start with this definition. So we need to understand what mechanization is. Now, what is mechanization? It's the process of changing from working largely or exclusively by hand or with animals to doing that work with machinery. Now, what is agricultural mechanization? This has to do with the application of engineering principles and technology in agricultural production, storage, and processing on the farm. Now, let's look at agricultural operations that can be mechanized. Land preparation is one of the agricultural activities or operations that can be mechanized. Planting can also be mechanized. You can use machines to plant. Fertilizer application can also be mechanized. That means you can use machines to apply fertilizer. You can also use machines for weeding. Same as crop harvesting. Our crop produce can be harvested using machines, and they can also be processed and stored using machines. Now, there are problems of agricultural mechanization. Let's take a look at some of the problems of agricultural mechanization. The land tenure system. Now, land tenure has to do with the system of ownership or acquisition of land by an individual, a family, or a community. Now, this system in Africa has posed a problem towards mechanization, especially with the type of land tenure system that has to do with inheritance. Now, most families are usually made up of a large number of people, and so when you're inheriting land, this land has to be shared among the members of the family, and this reduces the size of land available for agriculture. So especially the land tenure system does not allow for large farm holdings, and for mechanization to take place, you need large size of land or large farm holdings. So the land tenure system is one of the major problems of agricultural mechanization. In West Africa, then we also have poverty of farmers. They say most farmers in West Africa are usually poor and they cannot afford the cost or to purchase tractors and implements which are expensive. These machines, these tractors, bulldozers, tractors, the plow, the harrow, the milking machines, all of them, they're expensive. And so these farmers are poor and cannot afford to purchase these machines and their implements. Bad topography is another problem of mechanization in West Africa. The type of landscape we have in West Africa is undulating. That means it's not on a flat plain, and this can actually become unconducive for mechanization. So machines cannot operate easily on such terrain or such type of topography. Inadequate spare parts. Now, this is another challenge, major problem of agricultural mechanization. These machines are made up of half spare parts, and these spare parts are not available because most of these machines are not even manufactured in Africa or West Africa. They are from the Western world, and so the parts are also not available. So they have to be imported, and this is another major problem of agricultural mechanization in West Africa. We have inadequate technical manpower. Now, these machines and implements need to be operated by people who are professionals or who have the technical know-how of how to operate these machines. Now, this is not available, and this is also a major problem of agricultural mechanization in West Africa. The problems of storms and logs. Now, during clearing of our farms, trees are also cut down, and as they are cut down, logs or the lumps of these trees or the stumps are left still in the ground, and this can pose a problem to the machines that are to be used on such farmlands. So, problem of stumps and log is another problem of mechanization in Africa. We also have scattered farm holdings. Now, scattered farm holdings is also not conducive for mechanization in West Africa because we need the land holdings to be large enough and to be within a particular location. So when a farmer has a portion of land at this point and he has another portion at another point, it makes the use of machines difficult. So this scattered farm holdings makes it not conducive for mechanization to be carried out. Now let's take a look at the advantages of agricultural mechanization. What are the advantages? Mechanization has its advantages. It also has its disadvantages too. But let's start by taking a look at the advantages of agricultural mechanization. The first advantage here we have is called timeliness of operation. Now, with mechanization, when all the farm activities are being done or carried out using machines, this can be achieved within a short time because the horsepower produced by these machines is much more than what man can produce doing things manually. So these machines are able to do much more. So you're able to achieve your operations on your farm faster within a short period of time. It also saves labor. Now, with the use of machines on our farm, you find out that you need less human effort or human presence or activity to help carry out these farming activities. What a machine will do, several farmers or workers or laborers will be employed to do what just one machine will do. And you just need one person to operate the machine as against that same task carried out by so many people. So you find out that mechanization helps to save labor, and this labor can be employed elsewhere in other sectors of the economy. It reduces health hazards. So through mechanization, health hazards are reduced because when things are done manually, yes, with simple farm tools like the knives, the hoes and stumps, and you find out that the laborers or the farmer may be exposed to harm as in the course of using such simple farm tools like the rake or the knives and the hoe, and may also be exposed to pests and disease because of direct contact with our crops or diseased crops. So you find out that with mechanization, the machines are the ones that carry out these activities on the farm, and so the farmer doesn't have direct contact with either these implements or with pests or diseases that could be harbored on the crops. And so this can help to reduce the challenges that could come, health challenges or health hazards that could come with direct contact with some of these our crops or even our animals as well. Now, it helps to reduce drudgery. Now, what is drudgery? Drudgery has to do with difficulty. Doing things manually on the farm is quite difficult when you use your human effort to actually carry out some of the farming activities like tillage operations, like plowing, making mounds or ridges, this can be difficult, or even harvesting of our farm crop produce, this can be quite difficult and termed unpleasant. So as when a farmer makes use of machines, which has to do with farm mechanization, such labors are actually made easy. So that's another advantage of agricultural mechanization. It can also help to increase the farm revenue. Now the farmers are able to achieve more, they're able to cultivate larger areas of land, they're able to carry out operations on the farm more timely and more efficiently, so they're able to produce more, and because they're able to cultivate more land, they're also able to produce more. And as a result of this, they have more to sell, to make profit, to make money. So this can help to make the farmers richer due to high yield. It can also save time, as I stated earlier. When you use machines, what you can use machines to do within a short period of time, if it's done manually, it will take hours or much longer period of time to actually carry out some farming activities or operations on the farm, which a machine will do swiftly and quickly with less difficulty and better precision and efficiency. So it helps to save time. Reduction in the cost of operation. Now, because you are able to cultivate more land with lesser time, better efficiency, which will now lead to more output, you will find out that this can help to reduce the cost of operations per unit output. There's also improvement of the quality of produce. Now, what is done by machine, for example, rice polishing, is better. The output is more quality, is neater, more palatable compared to when it is done manually. So farm mechanization can help to improve the quality of some of our farm produce. Now, as I said, mechanization, agricultural mechanization has a lot of advantages, but it also has some disadvantages. So let's take a look at some of the disadvantages of agricultural mechanization. The first we have here is high costs. Now, these machines are expensive. Remember I said most of the farmers in Africa, West Africa, are poor and can't afford to purchase these machines. And these machines are complicated, they're sophisticated, they're expensive. So that's one major disadvantage of agricultural mechanization, high cost of our machines. There's also displacement of workers. Remember, we have fewer people. What a machine can do, several people will do that. Will have to be involved to carry out such farming activity. So when you have a machine or a tractor doing what several people can do, those people are displaced. Yes, they could be used as an advantage. It saves labor for other sectors of the economy, but at the same time, it can also lead to displacement of workers, which leads to unemployment, and so they will be out of job because they don't need so many people to do what a single machine can do. So you can see it can lead to displacement of workers. Compaction of soil. Now, these machines are heavy. They are heavy, and because of their weight, in the course of operating them, these machines, and they add a lot of weight to the soil, and this helps to compact or leads to compaction of our soil. That's a disadvantage. That means that could lead to erosion, lead to waterlogging because it reduces the infiltration or percolation of water into the soil, which can lead to erosion. So you can see that mechanization can lead to compaction of the soil. It can also cause environmental pollution because as these machines are used, as fuel is being combusted, as combustion is taking place, carbon monoxide is produced, as smoke released into the atmosphere, into the environment, and that is a major problem or a major disadvantage too of agricultural mechanization. The structure of the soil is also destroyed. Remember, we talked about compaction of the soil as a disadvantage. Also, the soil can also be destroyed. Like, look at the picture. The soil structure there is damaged due to continuous movement and usage of the farm machines. Few crops can be mechanized. It's not all crops that can be mechanized. Machines have to be developed or built or tailored to suit the morphology of the crop that is being cultivated. And we have so many types of crops with different types of morphology. You can see the tomato is different from how the maize or rice looks like. The yam is different from how the tomato looks like. So these machines have to be developed or tailored to suit the morphology of the crops in question. So very few crops like maize, rice, guinea corn can easily be mechanized. It's not all crops that can be mechanized. Inadequate technical know-how. Now, the knowledge to operate these machines, the knowledge to maintain these machines is not available. In West Africa, because these machines are not produced in West Africa, they are made in Europe or the Western world. When they're imported into Nigeria or the Western world to be used, you find out that people need to be trained on how to handle this, and this is not available. We lack technical know-how on how to use and handle these farm machines and equipment. That's a major disadvantage too of agricultural mechanization. Inadequate spare parts. As I said earlier, these machines are developed in the Western world, same as the spare parts. Since they are not developed in West Africa or Nigeria, we need to make use of these spare parts whenever there's a need, the need arises, and these spare parts are inadequate. High cost of maintenance. Now, these machines are subject to wear and tear. In the course of usage, they begin to depreciate or deteriorate, so they need to be maintained in order to keep on with their level of efficiency. And to maintain these machines is expensive, so that's another major disadvantage of agricultural mechanization. Spread of disease and pests. Now, these machines can cause or help to spread pests and diseases through contamination. When the machine gets in contact with the plants or the animals, the pathogens or the pests can stick to these machines, and while they are being used in other parts of the farm, those pathogens that have stuck to it will now be moved to other parts of the farm, so it can help to spread pests and diseases. Human control. Now, these machines cannot just operate by themselves. They need somebody to control them. So that's also another disadvantage of mechanization. Now let's take a look at the limitations of agricultural mechanization, some of the hindrances to agricultural mechanization. Now, these limitations will be discussed under the following headings. We have the economic limitations, we have technical limitations, we have lack of maintenance, and we have small farm holdings. Now, when we talk about economic limitations, we're talking about the financial aspect involved in mechanization. Here we have machines are not readily available in the country because most of them are not produced or developed or manufactured in West Africa or Nigeria, and most farmers are poor and cannot afford them. So this has to do with economic limitations. The financial aspect, most farmers are poor, they can't afford to buy these machines. Also, if these machines need to be hired, the cost of hiring these machines is very high and exorbitant, and the farmers can't afford it. Maintenance is also high. The cost of maintaining these machines is also high. Remember, they're not produced in Nigeria, or they're produced in the Western world, and so the parts are also not easily available, and these machines, maintaining them is not easy. It's on the high side. Then the operators of the machines also demand high pay, which most of the farmers cannot afford. So all of these fall under the economic limitations of agricultural mechanization. We also have the technical limitations. This has to do with the knowledge involved in operating or maintaining these machines. Now, there's lack of technical know-how of the machines. Knowledge on how to operate, how to repair, how to maintain these machines is lacking. The experts on these machines are also not readily available. Mode of operating of the machines are also not known, because these machines, you need to be specially trained to be able to operate or make use of these machines. So these fall under technical limitations, and most of these machines are also not adapted to our local environment. And we have few schools that exist for the training of these machine operators. So all of these are the technical limitations that are concerned with agricultural mechanization. Lack of maintenance is another limitation. Here, most machines are imported. They are not developed or produced in West Africa or Nigeria. There's a replacement of the parts are also not available. Replacement parts that are the spare parts for these machines are also not available. Trained personnel are also inadequate. People who can repair these machines are also inadequate. Then also the facilities that are needed to repair these machines or to help maintain these machines are also lacking. And also the trained personnel are also not available when these machines break down. So those who can train, who can repair these machines or who should be trained to repair are not available. So these are some of the challenges that come with lack of maintenance under the limitations of agricultural mechanization through lack of maintenance. Another limitation of agricultural mechanization is small farm holdings. This has to do with the size of the farmlands in West Africa. Now, the land tenure system in West Africa, which is basically by inheritance, which encourages fragmentation of land, does not encourage mechanization, because the sizes of the land being inherited are usually small, and this can prevent mechanization, which requires a large area of land. Of course, fragmentation discourages mechanization, and agriculture is usually practiced by peasant farmers, which are just the poor, small-scaled farmers that are involved in agriculture. Then the peasant farmers also have small areas of farmland too. So this is another limitation of agricultural mechanization. Let's look at the reasons why agriculture has not been fully mechanized in West Africa. So there are some reasons why agriculture has not been fully mechanized in West Africa. So these are the reasons: the size of the farmland, which has to do with small farm holdings, or the land tenure system does not permit mechanization. Also, the farming system currently practiced does not encourage mechanization. We have different types of farming systems: mixed farming, do you understand? Mixed cropping. All of these do not actually encourage mechanization. Then there are no access roads for the machines. So in West Africa, we have the issue of poor road networks to our farms, and these machines need this road network to be able to access the farmland. So that can also be another reason why West Africa has not been fully mechanized. And to hire this machine is also expensive, because these farmers do not have the financial capability to hire these machines because they are poor. Then also the running cost of this machinery discourages mechanization. To operate these machines, the running cost, maintenance of these machines is usually expensive. So this discourages mechanization. Tree stumps, which are left after clearing, can also hinder the use of machineries, and these machines are also expensive to purchase. To maintain them is also on the high side. There's also the problem of inadequate capital or credit facilities. The farmers cannot easily get credit facilities to help purchase these machines, so that can affect mechanization of the mechanization in West Africa. Now, the machine spare parts are also not easily available, and there's also lack of technical know-how on how to operate, use, or maintain these machines. Inadequate extension service is also another challenge that has led to West Africa not being fully mechanized, where the farmers do not have the knowledge of machines that are even able to carry out some of the farming activities. Then the topography or the soil terrain also prevents mechanization in West Africa. There's also inadequate farm labor or farm hands to enhance mechanization, and also the market structure or the systems for agricultural produce, or the poor marketing structure or systems for our selling of our agricultural produce also discourages farmers from producing on a large scale, where they produce on a large scale and they're not able to sell their produce due to poor marketing structure, can also be a hindrance to the mechanization of land in West Africa, or mechanization of agriculture in West Africa. Now let's take a look at the possible ways of improving agriculture through mechanization. What are the ways by which you can improve agriculture through mechanization? First and foremost, the farmers should be educated so that they can accept modern systems of farming, especially in areas of mechanization. These farmers need to be told, need to be informed on modern ways of farming, and this will now encourage them to accept mechanization. The government should also help to provide loans so that these farmers can purchase these machines, because remember we said the farmers in West Africa are usually poor, they don't have the money, but if loans are provided, they can purchase machines, and this will help to improve agriculture through mechanization. The land tenure system should also be reviewed so that farmers can get larger hectares of land. Now, simple and less expensive machines should also be developed. So not machines that are too complex, but simple and less expensive will also encourage mechanization or improve agricultural mechanization in West Africa. Farmers can also form cooperative societies which will enable them to pool their resources together to buy farm machines. So cooperative societies are people who work together with common interests and common goals to achieve a purpose. So these farmers can come together, pool their resources together, and buy farm machines. Government should also establish agricultural engineering schools. These schools will help to train personnel and also help to fabricate machines or develop machines that can be simple, less expensive, and will help to encourage or improve agriculture through mechanization. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and let's just have a recap on what we've learned so far. I said in this lesson, we stated the problems of agricultural mechanization, which include the land tenure system, which is a system of ownership, which is specifically by inheritance. That has been a problem of mechanization. Then the poverty of the farmers are usually poor and they can't afford these machines. There's also inadequate facilities, bad topography, to mention a few. We also highlighted mechanized agricultural operations. Those are agricultural operations that can be mechanized, which include the land preparation, planting, fertilizer application, and crop harvesting. And we also looked at the advantages of agricultural mechanization, some of which include timeliness of operation, saving of labor, reduction in health hazards, reduction in drudgery, reduction in cost of operation, and we also talked about improvement in quality of produce, just to mention a few. Thank you. Finally, we also looked at, we also discussed some disadvantages of agricultural mechanization, which include the high cost of the machines, displacement of workers, compaction of the soil, destruction of soil structure, environmental pollution, just to mention a few. And finally, we also explained the limitations of farm mechanization, which fell under economic limitations, technical limitations, and lack of maintenance. Let's take a look at this question. It says, which of the following statement is not true about farming in West Africa? A says farm labor is highly inefficient. B, farm workers are poorly paid. C, getting reliable labor is difficult. D, mechanization is fully adopted. The answer is D. Mechanization is not fully adopted in West Africa. Farm labor is highly inefficient, that's true. Farm workers are poorly paid, that's true. Getting reliable labor is difficult, that's true. Remember the question said which of these following statements is not true? And the last option here is mechanization is fully adopted. The answer is D, that is not true. So mechanization is not fully adopted in West Africa. This question says, a disadvantage of farm mechanization is A, efficiency in farming. B, displacement of farm workers. C, reduction in health hazards. D, timeliness of farm operation. So a disadvantage now, they're not talking about an advantage. A disadvantage is efficiency in farming, that's an advantage. Reduction in health hazards, that's also an advantage. Timeliness of farm operation is also an advantage, but displacement of farm workers is a disadvantage because they're able to employ what one farm machine operator can do using the machine, several workers will do. And so if you get your machines, you don't need several workers to carry out some farming activities. So that leads to displacement of workers. So the answer is B, as a disadvantage of farm mechanization. This question says, continuous soil tillage could lead to A, increased infiltration of water. B, reduced runoff. C, breakdown of soil structure. And D, improved soil texture. The answer is C. When you continuously till your soil, especially using heavy machines, the soil structure is either made compact or destroyed. So that leads to the breakdown of soil structure. So the answer is C.